Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for coming this morning to the announcement of our first batch of Proud of Them nominees or awardees. My name is Jennifer Hearn. I'm the Permanent Secretary and Chief Officer in the Ministry of Health, Environment, Youth, Sports and Culture. And I'm really, really excited to be here today to spread the great news about who our first group of awardees are so that you can know to look for them when the billboards go up. I'm going to start off by asking Mr. Joel Francis, who's the Senior Policy Advisor for our ministry and the chairperson of the committee responsible for the Proud of Them program, to just say a few words to give you some overview of the program and how we arrived at this point today. So, Joel?
Thanks, Mr. Hearn. Good morning, everyone. Just a little bit on the background, as Mr. Hearn said. The idea was first proposed by the National Youth Commission members about 2 years ago, and it's been a long process, but it really involved, firstly, us approaching the Central Planning Authority and the Planning Department to get approval for the billboards to be put up across the islands, after which we developed a public nomination form and the evaluation criteria. Then there was a month-long process which started in February and ran to March 4th. And then the committee met over several weeks to determine who the first batch of awardees would be. We had about 176 nominations, and we were very proud of that. It made our job very, very hard. Just to say that the caliber was such that the next 20 awardees in terms of the scores were within 10 points of the 12 who are being announced today. Just want to say also thanks to the public for their support in this initiative. The caliber of awardees is a direct result of their participation in the process. And we will be going out again for the second round starting the 1st of August. And we'd like to say that we will keep those who were not successful on file. Where the public thinks there's additional information for a particular nominee to be added, they can send that in when the new process opens. So if there's new information about particular nominees, we ask you to send that in to us when the new process opens in August. Just also like to say thanks to the committee members, Ms. Marie Martin, Ms. Diana Tibbetts, Ms. Yvette Cacho, Ms. Christy Anderson, Mr. Andrel Harris, and Mr. James Miles for their work in getting us to the stage we are today. I'd also like to thank the chair of the National Youth Commission, Ms. Jenny Manderson, for her support, as well as the Chief Officer, Mr. Hearn, and the Minister for their support. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Joel. And I just want to actually, on behalf of the ministry, thank the committee members for the hard work that they did. As Joel mentioned, we had over 175 nominations received, and I saw them as they were coming in, and I can tell you that the committee had a really tough job trying to narrow it down to 12 for this round. They were some really, really impressive nominations that came in, but I also have to commend the committee. I think that the choices that they've made, and I'm sure you'll agree, are some 12 really outstanding young people that are going to be recognized in this first batch. So a huge thanks to Joel for his efforts and to the members of the committee for the time that they did. So I'll now turn it over to Minister Scotland.
Thank you, and obviously thanks to the press who's here this morning. A bit disappointing that more of the press corps isn't here for this very positive announcement, but obviously one of the reasons why we're doing this initiative to begin with is because we don't get enough positive coverage of our young people in the media, and I would only have hoped that they would have been more represented here for this announcement. But do thank Radio Cayman for being here, and we'll get information to the other press corps as well. But very proud today to be announcing the first set of young people who will be recognized in the Proud of Them initiative. It's an initiative that was conceptualized a couple of years back within our ministry. I want to thank Mr. Joel Francis for his idea, bringing it together, the chief officer, and then the committee that was put together to after we had the concept to come up with all the criteria and the whole nomination process. And as you see, it's taken quite a while also, ensuring that billboards have been erected. Some of them, the billboards are erected already, waiting for these wonderful young people's images and information to be placed on them. And so I want to, thank everyone who's involved in the process so far. Certainly, the reason for doing this, albeit might seem a very small initiative, is very, very important. Too often, as I said earlier, we press coverage we have about the negative aspects of our youth in terms of deviant behavior that they're engaged in, and so on. And that's what makes the headlines in our press too often. And so we want to change that direction somewhat, and we feel the ministry has a guiding role to play in that when we look at our youth policy, for instance, and some of the goals in youth policy, such as the development and enhancement of a socio-cultural identity of all youth of the Cayman Islands, with the aim of fostering individual, community, and national pride. What more better way to foster and encourage national pride than to put these images of these young people who, although very young, have significant achievements already, at a very tender age. What better way to foster national pride than for us to drive around, see their images on these boards, and then also, when you think about like young Nigel Lewis, who just represented us in the Carifta Games, we have Chanel Gall, who's here today, who's been playing professional football at a very young age, very far away from here, all the way over in Europe. We have Miss Lewis here, again, already represented our islands overseas in various capacities. So we have some very well accomplished young people who again, as I said, fostering national pride, but also more importantly, being mentors and role models for other young people coming behind. And we look again at another goal in the youth policy, such as well-rounded individuals who are able to contribute to the success of society through an education system which ensures adequate learning opportunities for youth resident in islands. Again, many of these youngsters being recognized in this first group are being recognized in the area of academics. And I'm very pleased to see that, because again, another area where we need to see more role models for our youngsters. We see more sports and athletes emerging now as role models in the community, and certainly we want to continue that emphasis on education and the academic side of it, as well as the athletics. So good to see that as I said, the first round of awardees and recipients to be recognized being announced today. We will certainly be erecting their images and information on the boards, as we said, and there'll also be some information we can explain further through the media, where we'll carry press releases that give more of the bios on these young people and tell you the amazing things that they have achieved already at a very, very young age. I'm very proud of all of them. As Joel said, it was a very difficult process, which again speaks volumes when we see that we have 175 nominations from a very small community like ours. In terms of the criteria that were established, which were not very easy criteria. These young people had to achieve significant things already in their young lives, and to see that number of nominations, and I'm glad to see that we'll be keeping those on file for further consideration, and obviously if there are further achievements we can add to those as well when we have the next round. So as I said, I want to thank the press. I hope that we'll carry these releases when we send them out to emphasize and to encourage other young people to follow in the footsteps of these that have already achieved significant things at a very young age. I hope that we can continue to have nominations. I want to call on the private sector to come on board with us in this initiative to help to sponsor it. Again, anything we can do to emphasize and to note the positive achievements of young people, I think is value for money very well spent, and can only produce excellent dividends down the road when we continue this initiative through the years. And we'll see I can assure you that we will see the amount of deviant behavior, even from this initiative, being reduced as we see other young people being encouraged by these awardees.
Thank you very much, Minister. And now I'm going to ask Minister to read out the list of the first 12 awardees. They range in age from 15 years old up to 25, and they are representing all the different districts, and the categories that are being recognized this time are academics, sports, and community service. So with no further ado, I will ask Minister Scotland to read the 12 names of this round of awardees in the Proud of Them campaign.
So thank you, Jennifer. And so it gives me great pleasure to this morning announce the names of the first 12 young persons that are going to be recognized in the Proud of Them Youth Recognition Campaign, the first ever Proud of Them campaign that we've had. And those persons, as Jennifer said, are from across the islands, and they are as follows. Our first name is Latoya Lavita Francis. She's age 25. Latoya is here with us this morning. She's from the District of Northside, and she's been recognized for her achievement, as I said earlier, in academics. Very significant, again, as I said, to see that being recognized in this area, and we'll learn some more about Latoya as we go along as well. Joel Alex Burke, who's 21 years old, from the District of Georgetown, again, being recognized in the area of academics. Brian Kirby Watler Jr., who's 19 years old, from the District of Northside as well, being recognized in the area of academics. Moses Isaiah Ebanks, who's only 17 years old, from the District of West Bay, again in the area of academics. Shakaya Elsian Tatum from Cayman Brac, representing the Sister Islands. She's 21 years old, and she's also being recognized in the area of academics. Andrew Nigel Smiley, who's 23 years old. We all know Andrew as one of our most accomplished swimmers, and Andrew's overcome significant challenges to have, to reach where he is in swimming now, having gone to several very major international events and represented the Cayman Islands extremely well with some significant accomplishments. And so, very proud to have Andrew from the District of Georgetown being recognized in the area of sports. We also have Chanel Latina Gall, who's 21 years old, representing the District of Bordentown, and she's here with us today. She's also recognized in the area of sports, as I said earlier, knowing Chanel's achievements over the years as a national footballer, national women's footballer for the Cayman Islands, but now also playing her football professionally, and I believe one of the, if not the first, woman professional football player from the Cayman Islands. Again, significant achievement at a very young age of only 21 years old. Kylie Thompson, 18 years old, from the District of Georgetown, also being recognized in the area of academics. Giovanni David Anglin, 18 years old, from the District of Georgetown, again in the area of academics. Takia Chanel Smith, 20 years old, from Bordentown, in the area of academics again. Haley Rianne Robinson, again from the District of Bordentown, 18 years old, and the one person here being recognized even at 18 years old for her contributions already in the area of community service. So even at the age of 18, someone who's been very involved in her community, and again, a good encouragement for others at a very young age to become involved in the community, whether it be through service clubs or your church or even volunteering at your school or otherwise. And we have the last of the 12, but by no means least, and the youngest of our 12 and the first of the recipients, Taj Julian Lewis, who's also here with us today, just recently represented the Cayman Islands at the age of 15, as I said, at the Carifta Games in Bahamas, his first Carifta Games, I believe, and certainly not going to be his last, and certainly has a very bright future ahead of him in the area of sports. So there we have our first 12 very worthy recipients, from the age of 15 to 25, which is both the lower and upper limit of the ages, close to the lower and upper limit of the ages we were recognizing. But again, as I said, very, very impressive to see at this very young age what these young people have done. So I want to congratulate all of them. Again, thank the committee, the senior policy advisor, Mr. Francis, my chief officer, Jennifer. I see Ms. Diane Scott here, who's part of was part of the committee as well, and Mr. Andrew Harris. I want to thank them all, GIS for all their work on this initiative, and I certainly look forward to seeing these boards go up in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And I also want to join the Minister in thanking the committee again, and also a big, huge thank you to the team at GIS for the fantastic work that they have done. I'm sure that you'll all agree when the billboards go up, GIS designed them, and they're really fantastic. So a huge thank you to the team at GIS for that work. They are real superstars. So huge congratulations to our first batch of awardees and the Proud of Them campaign. I think that they are all very well deserving and very well accomplished youth. So it's really great to be able to recognize them this way. And with that, I think I'll just open it up if there's any questions.
To speak to the minister's opening remarks, I am the only one here. And just before I ask a question, I will say that it is quite refreshing, even as a member of the press, I interviewed some of these young, ambitious individuals earlier, and it was quite refreshing, and it is nice to talk about something positive for a change. So that having been said, speaking of positivity, excuse me, the response from the public in terms of nominations, you said 175 plus. Was there an expectation leading up, and did that meet or surpass those expectations?
I mean, if you look at the number of young people, and even in the education system, you somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 young. Those are in school age children, plus just went outside of school ages. But as I said, I would think that the number of responses was certainly based on the criteria that was set, because obviously, as I said, we're trying to get nominees of the nominations for our very high achievers, those who have significant accomplishments, because that's what we're recognizing. So I think, from my personal perspective, I certainly think that 175 nominations was a significant amount, and certainly representative of what those persons that were nominating thought of those persons that they nominated. But I certainly think that 175 was a good number, and it gave the judges, it gave the committee, I should say, very, very difficult work. And as you heard Mr. Francis say, and even after all the process, that the next set of persons were within very close, in terms of the points of the 12 that were recognized.
Forgive me, 3 categories: academic, sports, and.
In this round, it's academic, sports, and community service. There were other areas being recognized, but obviously none came forward. So there's academics, career, business, sports, culture, and community service, and all the awardees in this round came from academic, sports, and community service.
And community service, okay. And being that it is so early in the initiative itself, are there plans perhaps to add additional categories? It seems like you've covered a wide spread as it is, but are there plans maybe to add some additional categories?
I think the committee's done an excellent job in coming up with the categories and the criteria, and certainly it would be open to anything in the future. But as you can see, even in this now, it's still been narrowed down to only 3 out of the 6 based on the nominees and the grading criteria and so on. But certainly, I believe the committee would be open to other categories, although I'm not sure how many other categories you could expand to, because I think the 6 of those categories pretty much capture all areas.
Right. As for, you mentioned the next round going to be in August. Is the idea to do this sort of quarterly, or in terms of the recognition, do we know how often?
The billboards will be up for 6 months.
Okay.
So what we're targeting to do is to have the next batch of awardees ready to go up in November.
I see.
So we'll reopen the nomination process in August and encourage the public to submit their nominations, or in the case of somebody who's already been nominated, if there's some additional information that the nominator thinks we should have, that the committee should know, we'll encourage them to submit that. But if the submission, as Joel mentioned in his remarks, we're rolling forward the batch that's already been submitted because there was such an impressive group. We'll carry those forward. So if you've already nominated a youth, you won't need to renominate them. But if there's something additional that you think would help the committee in making their determination, we'll encourage you at the time to submit that. But similarly, in August, when we reopen the nominations, we'll encourage new nominations as well.
Right. And again, just for clarification, between 15 and 25, correct?
10.
Yeah.
Oh, 10 and 25. Okay.
Yeah.
But this batch was 15 and 25. Those were the winners.
The
right?
ages of the awardees are between 15 and 25, but youth, as defined in our national youth policy, the ages of a youth range from 10 to 25 as defined in our national youth policy.
Yeah. It's just the age range that came out on top in this round.
Right.
Yeah.
What was the other question I had here? Minister, you had mentioned sort of, the importance of covering, the positive stories in terms of Cayman's youth. How much incentive would a program like this, do you think, would give, let's say, a teen that some would define as troubled or, has gone off the beaten path a little bit? Do you think, seeing some of these individuals, these award winners, would maybe lead them back on track? And is that the overall goal of the program?
It's the main goal of the program, because obviously our youth policy and all we've done in the Ministry of Youth and Sports and Health and indeed the government has been to encourage young people and give them incentive to walk the right path, to stay on the straight and narrow, as opposed to being encouraging to deviant behavior and other things like that. So certainly we believe, and it's been proven, I think, when young people choose the right role models and others to follow, it will be one of the ingredients that helps them to success in their life. Obviously, just seeing these role models, their images and so on the boards, that's not going to be the only thing that helps them to become successes themselves. It's about it's going to be learning what their stories are. You know, how often does Taj go to the track to practice? If you want to be an athlete like Taj, how often does Chanel practice her football? How hard does Latoya have to study? How many hours a week does she study and read and do all the work that she does to have been a successful student in school? So there's two things here. One is to see what they've done, to know their accomplishments, but also to look at delve a little bit deeper, read their stories, read what they've done, learn about, when you think about, because that's always sort of the but misunderstanding when people look at athletes, for instance, or even successful students. They don't realize that, many nights, how many late nights Latoya might have been up by the, reading her books and studying by lamplight and so on. And then the same thing for Taj. How many hours a week does he, get out of school, instead of going home and playing his video games or just lounging around watching TV, he's out at the Truman Bodden track, several evenings a week, practicing very, very hard, so that when you watch him run the 800 meters for those two plus minutes, that's only the culmination of all his efforts that have gone into that. And that's what this program is about, because it's not just putting his image up there, it's about saying, what have they done to get these achievements? I know the struggles that Chanel has had to be able to stay and play that football, because it's been very difficult. Even the contributions of her parents and so on, for instance, the efforts, and it's all about that whole story. What goes into making your young people successful? Their efforts on their own part, parents, the schools, the community, and that's what I believe the story is of all these young people so far that are being recognized. And so that's what it's about. And I think that gives, it should not only give the young people an incentive. Other parents can look at the successes of these young people and say, if I only give that effort to my child as well, if I take them to that extra practice, if I can get them to to the track on time, if I can help them at night with their studies a little bit and work along with them, they can succeed as well. So I think it's a holistic approach here, and I think that the program can certainly be an incentive, not just to young people, but to parents and the community in general.
Yeah. And in speaking with Ms. Latoya, she had mentioned, it's never mind it not being a monetary recognition, it's a very significant recognition nonetheless. And that having been said, I mean, you do look at the potential for the monetary success when an employer, say, looks at a resume and sees one of these nominees, or rather one of the award winners on there. So can you talk about maybe the doors this opens for some of these award winners in the future?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's really important to get the positive stories out. As you mentioned earlier, so often, and as the minister said, we just hear the negative stories about the youth. And I think by promoting these positive role models for the youth in the different areas that we're promoting, I think it's really going to help other youth to aspire to achieve in these areas, and to see, as Minister said, what it takes to get there, and to give the positive news some airtime, so that it's not just the bad news all the time.
Yeah, I know that all too well. Those are all the questions I have, other than to say just congratulations to everybody, and thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all very much again for coming this morning, and we look forward to seeing the billboards as they go up in the next few days. Thanks very much, and have a wonderful day.